Hello there. So this time I guess I'm online for good. Please let me know if you can hear me. That would be awesome. And if you can still hear me over the music, I will still keep the music during live streams because well, I think it's a little bit better with music because there might be moments with awkward silence when I'm thinking about something. And yeah, I will keep the music for live streams, but on the videos, as you know, there is no music. So thank you everybody for joining this live stream on Code Wrinkles. I guess it's the first live stream in quite a few months. I think the last one was actually in May or something like that. And there's quite a little bit of time from okay, all okay. Okay, thank you very much. I see that well, your username is in Cyrillic and I really can't read it, so sorry for that. Otherwise I would just Girdler or Girdier, I'm not sure. Just wanted to say great series so far. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay, for those of you who might not know, actually I have started, I guess 1 year back, a series which was a clean architecture API, like one that I would create for my customers for production ready. Yuri, thank you very much, Yuri. And I guess we have covered quite some stuff there. So here's a basic overview of that one for those of you who are newer to this one. So yeah, basically we have it's a very standard layer. We have the domain. The only thing is I kind of like have tried to somehow apply some of the domain-driven design principles, not all of them, but some that I think that might be useful or that are useful even in, let's say, regular applications. So I really like this concept of aggregates in domain-driven design, and therefore we have mostly worked on two functionalities till now, like a user profile aggregate and then a post aggregate. Post aggregate, of course, it contains everything on a post, including comments or interactions. And as you can see, we have here rich domain model. So it means that a lot of the functionality or a lot of, well, yeah, the features, the business logic is in the models themselves. Okay, all good. Oh, are we working on social? Yes, we will be working on social, but from a different perspective, on a total different perspective, actually, because we'll do a minimal API over it. Till now we have a regular API, but we'll start to build a minimal API over it. I just wanted to go a little bit through the project for those of you who are newer here. And yeah, then we'll go over to the minimal API part. So that's basically our domain layer. We have some custom exceptions for the domain layer. We have validators where we have used Fluent validation, like for instance this post comment validator or this post validator. And then we have, of course, the data access layer in which we use the entity framework core. And the only, well, I think nice thing here is that I have used configurations to actually configure the entities. So if you look into my data context or DB context, it's very clean. Basically, no configurations at all. Because all the configurations are actually in dedicated files per each resource or per each entity. And it's fairly easy to build those. It's just you just need to, well, inherit this entity type configuration and implement this configure, and basically you can move the configuration for each entity in a dedicated class. And then in a data context, you can clip everything clear. You can just apply configurations, and yeah, that would be it. In this case, apply configurations actually comes from this method, which is an extension of model builder. But now I'm looking at it and I don't understand why it's like this, because I thought I have changed that. Because there is also, for instance, a method apply configurations from assembly. Not sure where. It's apply configurations from assembly. Okay, that should be this one. Then of course you need to specify the assembly, and to do this I can do a type of data context, which is the name of this class. And then of course I have also to type correctly. This mic is a little bit annoying. Assembly. and it should be, and in this case, Entity Framework Core would actually scan the entire assembly that I have specified here, and will automatically apply all the configurations that it finds. So in that case, we can theoretically get rid of our custom model builder extension, where I'm not sure here in the extension. So theoretically, we can get rid of that in this case. So I really did think that I had changed that, but seemingly maybe not. But yeah, now it should work correctly. So, but that's basically my data access layer. Now the one thing is that I didn't use repositories. I used directly the data context in the application layer, because, well, that's one thing that I think in some cases maybe using repositories, it adds an overhead. But this is something that I plan maybe to change for the application, so I'll do probably a refactoring and I will go to repositories eventually. But then we have the application layer. According to clean architecture, this should be the use cases layer. So if you are full clean architecture terminology. And then here, of course, we have all the queries, all the commands, all the handlers for each type of features that we actually have here. And yeah, here we have for posts, and then we have we have posts, and in these posts we have then this command handlers query. Basically, the way that I will try, or that I try to actually set this up, is that I would kind of like have something similar to what Jimmy Bogart calls vertical slices. So I organize the code here according to the features mostly, and then this posts feature is one of the features that we have implemented till now. And the identity feature is the other one, because we have a very basic login and then authorization on this one. So these are only the features, and all the others are kind of like, well, classes that kind of like help us to achieve different things. Here I have a service that's an application layer service that's important, and that's why I don't have an interface for that, because it's used only in this assembly. It's not used anywhere else. And here I have moved the logic for creating the JWT token, for writing the JWT token, and yeah, looking into the JWT token. So that's actually this service doing. And yeah, that's a regular application layer with CQRS, or, well, partly CQRS using Mediator. And then we had this API that I have really once again created, or I was thinking to create it like I would for a real project. Therefore, I have here a contracts folder, and in that contracts folder, I actually expose the external contracts of the API. In some cases, you probably call them DTOs, but I will call them contracts, because they are an API, as the name implies, is actually a contract between my application, my server, and clients that want to consume some information from that. And therefore, all these models that actually expose that information are actually a contract. It's like an interface. Like API is programmable interface, so it means it is an interface. So that's a common error response, because one thing is that when you return errors, no matter what type of errors, they should have a common structure, or the structure should actually be very similar. And that's a very, very basic structure of errors that we might want to return. Then we have contracts for identity, which is, for instance, the authentication result, which is the result we're sending if authentication was successful. We have the identity user profile, we have the login, we have the user registration. All these are types that are exposed via the interface to external consumers. And for posts, here I have subdivided this in requests and responses, because I have here quite a few requests, because for posts and for post comments, because that's a nested resource. And yeah, then for the responses, so here is the requests, like the contracts that should come in with the request, like in the body, sorry. And the responses is what we return from the API. So that's what we respond. So that's mostly it. Cool. So that's kind of like, yeah, the very, very basic clean architecture. And I have used filters. I like filters a lot. Filters are very, very important from my point of view. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to actually play around with the .NET 7 Minimal API, because it includes support for filters. Now, of course, the filters there are a little bit different, and there's actually only one type of filter that we have there, but still we have filters. So we have this option to execute some code right before a route handler is executed and right after it is executed. so we can move and declutter basically our handler. It's something similar that we have done in our controllers, like for instance the post controller. We have moved here a lot out of the controller, like validate GUID. Like when we have GUIDs in the routes, I have this filter that validates if the GUID is correct or not. If it's not correct, execution will not even enter this. It will just create and return an error response, like a bad request. And then here we just create the command or the query. We just send it to the mediator. We map it back to a contract, and then we return that. Here, once again, we want to validate the model. Exactly the same thing. We have moved model validation outside of the controller to keep the controller as clean as possible. I still think that there might be some things that we can take out here from the controllers, like maybe this type of things, or no, creating the command not, but for instance, the user profile ID that we take from the HTTP context. It's something that we can probably move also in a filter, I think. Here we're actually also validating the GUID, but we also validate the model. So we just use two filters on the same request, kind of the same thing. And yeah, we have kept the controllers as clean as possible, at least till now. So that's actually the whole point. And we have even versioning, but we have worked only on V1 controllers till now. Well, guys, I want this to also be an interactive chat. So as also in the title of the stream says, you can ask me anything. So I'm really counting on you to actually ask something. So that would be nice. Cool. So that's kind of like what we have. And what I want to do is I want to actually leverage the existence of the domain of the application and of the data access layer where we have implemented everything. And I just want to add another minimal API to it. So we have this CWK social API, but I want to also add a minimal API. You can imagine this as being a different application or a different, a backend part. Or if you think in terms of, microservices architecture, there usually is this concept like backend for frontend. Like you have to create a backend for a certain frontend to aggregate different type of queries and information depending on the application that is using it. And that's it. Okay, so Yuri, client part, Blazor. I'm not sure that I will do the client part, but I'm open for anybody that wants to actually kind of like maybe do it. Maybe we'll do it together. And yeah, that's one thing that I wanted maybe also to discuss in this round, is that if you have followed my channel for, I don't know, the past year, you know that probably I had quite like a 3 or 4 months that I was not active at all. Like I also had some renovations ongoing in my house, so it was a little bit difficult. But also, yeah, it was kind of like I was procrastinating a lot. But basically what happens is that I have started 1 month back, I say that's already 1 month, to actually really work on this again. Like right now I'm just considering this channel and this community as being a second job. So yeah, I'm fully committed to it, and I'm posting regular updates, and I will definitely do at least 1 live stream per week, because my plan is that anytime that I want to actually do some coding and play around with stuff, I also want to do a live stream for that. And yeah, there is one other thing that maybe it was it's nice to mention. I have turned on memberships to this channel a few days ago. So if you want to become a part of the community or play a bigger role in the entire community around Code Wrinkles, you can find the join button and you can see all the details. There are quite some different perks and opportunities, I'll say, depending on the different memberships. And one thing is that this doesn't mean that I will not continue to create the content that I created so far. So nothing will change for the channel. I will do exactly the same type of content. I will post at least 2 or 3 videos per week. So I will still do everything. Everything will be for free. So those who want to join and become members, they just get some extra stuff. But what we already have, it will still be here. Cool. Then Victor Moreno, apologies for the dumb question, but why is called minimal API? Okay, cool. Let's try to answer this question together. And by the way, if you have followed me, you know that I'm usually using Rider as an IDE. However, the problem is with Rider that it doesn't yet support the .NET 7 SDK fully. So that's why this time I'm in Visual Studio. But Victor Moreno, I hope I got this right here, Victor Moreno. Let's look into it together, because the first thing that we need to do here is add new project. So new project, and we'll use an ASP.NET Core API, but we'll call this CWK social.minimal API. So that's what we'll call this project. We'll use .NET 7, very important, because there are some new features in the .NET 7 minimal APIs that weren't there in the .NET 6 minimal APIs, and that I think that are really important. So right now I'm really considering the minimal APIs as a viable option for some production applications, because until this version, yeah, I looked into that, I played a lot, but around, but I still didn't think that it was a technology that I could propose to a customer. But right now I think it might be, or one of the reasons why I do this live stream is I want to actually find out myself if if it's okay to actually use minimal API. So what I will try to do is to port all the functionality that we already have in the API to the minimal API, because this would give me a very good overview about, for instance, what would be the challenges for the things that I'm usually doing in an API, like validations, like using the filters, like contracts, and how we organize the code, and what it is really different in the minimal API, and what this means when you really want to write production code. So kind of like in this live stream, I try to do this. So it's not something that I have prepared beforehand. So I might stumble upon some challenges that might definitely be a possibility. So yeah, don't be surprised. But that's what I try to evaluate here. Evaluate if this type of minimal API is mature enough to be considered, at least by myself, for this one. Cool. Cosmin Diaconescu, also thank you for joining. I think there are at least 2 viewers here that are my colleagues. That's well, thank you very much for joining. But yeah, that's a little bit well, weird. I don't know why, but yeah, thank you very much. Okay, let's create this project and look into why it is called a minimal API. Also, then this is gonna be another series. Probably I'll surely not finish today. So I had a very long working day, both at work. Then there's one other thing that I do. I also teach in a local university. Like Mondays and Thursday, I have some courses there. Yeah, so I'm pretty busy. I'm pretty tired, so I'll probably not finish today. So that's for sure. But the idea is that even if we don't really have a series, I will still do the live streams. Like if I don't want to work on the minimal APIs, I will enhance the already existing API, or if it is not that, I'll do something else. I have plenty of different ideas, and I'm also open to your ideas. Like for instance, the idea is that I want, or an idea that I have is to maybe also, I don't know, look around GitHub, some repositories, and just pick one out and perform a code review, fork that repository and clone it, and kind of like refactoring the code there. That might be also a very good learning opportunity. It's not weird, we're here to learn. Yeah, thank you, Bogdan. I'm also here to learn, actually, so you'll see that today Victor Moreno, hope you're still here. So why it is called a minimal API? Well, it is called a minimal API because if you look into this project, and if you had any experience with Node.js, so even if you, I don't know, maybe just started a new Node.js with Express application, you see that it's something that's very similar to what we have here. So kind of like we have a web application builder. Here we can do some stuff. We build that application, and then we just map routes. So we don't have controllers. We don't have all the entire framework around it. We just have this functionality. Hey, you can describe routes here, and you can just use them directly. Now, here the discussion is a little bit more complex from my point of view, because there's always this kind of like balance between, hey, okay, what's a framework and what's actually a library. Like framework and ASP.NET Core, like the regular controller-based APIs, that's a framework. A framework is always opinionated, so it kind of like instructs you to write your code in a certain way. Like ASP.NET Core, you have, well, you need to have controllers. You probably need to add, I don't know, filters. I mean, you are instructed by the framework itself to do things in a certain way. Now, with a library, generally, it's just, hey, here you have some functionality. It's your business how you use it. And this comes with advantages and disadvantages. Like, I think that when, I don't know, maybe you're a more junior or less experienced person, I guess frameworks are really important because kind of like they teach you to think or to think about designing the code in a certain way that can surely be actually seen as a best practice. On the other side, the libraries, like here's the functionality, you can use it however you want. The problem is that everybody will use it however they want. And you will see tutorials where do you write code directly there and everything together, and yeah, everything works, especially if you look at Node with Express, or maybe even at React, for instance. Like React is a library, Angular is a framework, and if you have at least opened both of them, I guess you already know the difference, because in Angular, yeah, you need to have the components, you need to have the services, you have dependency injection, you have to think about stuff in a certain way. There are also best practices on how to structure the folders and the files, what comes in the common or the shared module, what is not. So it really teaches you, or it kind of like obliges you to do things in a certain way. Now, exactly this is the part where we have that difference between an ASP.NET Core regular API and the minimal API, because the regular API, like we have it here, no, you need to have controllers. You need to do things in a certain way. With the minimal API is you have an application, you can just start mapping endpoints like crazy and just use it. The problem with this is, of course, yeah, it's very easy to get started, but you can imagine this is our program.cs file with only one endpoint. Now, when we'll have 16, like we have, for instance, in the API, it's really that, well, it's a problem. You can't simply just come here and just, well, start to kind of like run app map gets or map posts and things like that. That will not work. That's for sure not maintainable. That's for sure not a clean code. So then you have to think about, okay, how would I organize my code in that case? So that will be one of the first challenges that we will have to tackle. Now, answers might be different there. Like, I would probably organize it in somehow like, I don't know, maybe I have a folder that I called either modules or routers or something like that, and I'll create like a module or a route map or something similar for each of the resources that I have, and I'll see how we can then wire up everything together. Dependency injection works totally different than it works in ASP.NET Core, because we'll see you can inject dependencies in the route handler. Like when you register a route in a minimal API, you just have to specify, well, the route itself, which is this string here, and the route handler. A route handler is actually just a simple method that will be executed when this route is hit. So you can either specify this as a lambda, which is an anonymous function, but you can even, well, move this into a static method here, but you can move it also into an instance method and then just specify the method here, and everything would work. So it will have, or it will keep this route itself cleaner than we have it right now. Cool. Now, let me check if there are any other questions, and no, for now not. Cool. Don't be shy and just get in touch. And yeah, by the way, I don't know, I forgot what I wanted to say. So, Victor Moreno, for the beginning, is this pretty clear what's the difference between a regular API and a minimal API? See, there's some comment here, but I get the comments always with a little bit of delay. So what could be the main scenario for this kind of API? It's not really about the main scenario. You can use it whenever you need to create an API. So it's it's just another way to organize and to think your application as an API. One way is the traditional way with controllers. The other way is the more lightweight. It gives you more freedom with minimal API. So there isn't a real use case for that, or very specific use case. It's just another way that you could create APIs. And during this video or this live stream, and well, the others that will follow on this topic, my plan is to exactly find out how different it actually is to work with a minimal API instead of with regular traditional API. Can you wrap it all up in a 30-second explanation about the difference between minimalistic and normal API? One, I haven't been here since 30 minutes ago. Yeah, but I have just explained this difference right now. So 30 minutes ago, we were just talking, or we didn't even start. But I think I will do a video on that, actually. If you think that would be a good idea, I guess I'll do a video on that. Cool. So let me go first here in this project. First of all, before we get started, what I would like to do is I'm not accustomed anymore with this one directly. Open. One thing that I want to do here is I don't want to actually launch the browser. So yeah, that's one thing that I want to do here. And the other thing that I want to do here is in the solution, I want to change my startup project to be the minimal API. Cool. Now we have that. So theoretically now, if we run it, and by the way, I will need Postman. I will not add Swagger anymore to this one. Like the main reason I will not add Swagger right now in the video is Swagger always has this very, very light background. Now Postman usually has a dark background, so I'm not sure what happens right now. Probably it's just loading. Okay, that's some endpoints for a video that I'm preparing, probably for Sunday. So yeah, let me add a new collection. How should we call this? Cool. And let's minimal API live stream. That should be it. Add the request. Now I don't know for sure exactly how the request should look like, but if we run this, it should start the console, and in the console we should see then everything that we need. This looks so complex. Why the need of a Postman? What looks complex? Postman? I think, I don't know. It's kind of like depends. I don't find Postman complex. I just find it very useful. You can even automate a lot of API tests. So I actually use Postman fairly often. So I guess that should be the URL. So is Postman, so you think that Postman is complex? Postman looks complex. I guess it should be this one. New request. Let's edit it. So Postman is only used to test your API. Yeah, but there are really a lot of things that you can do with Postman. You can test your APIs, you can automatically test your APIs, you can share your Postman collections. For instance, one thing that I could do is, for anybody that wants to run this, I can just share a Postman collection. You can reuse it and you have all the requests there that were already configured. So that's very useful, especially when you're building an API and want to help, I don't know, clients that will use your API to get started faster with your API. Instead of reading the entire documentation, you just send them a Postman collection and they just look directly into how requests are made to your API. So yeah, I don't know, Postman, I guess I find it very useful. So yeah, get with weather forecast. Let me check. And we got, oh, 404 not found. Okay, because I have a typo here. Of course, weather forecast. Hopefully this time it's okay. Yeah, and I get the forecasts. Because I never used Postman, I just debug tested with manual and curl requests. Yeah, but Postman is so much easier and, well, than curl. Like curl, yeah, it's a common language, you can totally use it, but Postman is very powerful. You can really do a lot of things. You can create workspaces, you can group your APIs, you can run automated tests on your APIs with different parameters. So it's yeah, I like Postman a lot. Cool. So we have the request. So we see that we have already the minimal API working. Now, right now, of course, it just has this this type of weather forecast request. So let me just save this. And save, and then you can close everything and you can come back and everything is safe for you. You can imagine when you have headers that you add here or bodies, you can say when you save it, everything will be safe. So you can just simply send to somebody, hey, here is how you run the request to my API, and that's it. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I guess it's a good thing that I didn't do live sessions for so long, because honestly, I think in none of the live sessions did I have 17 or 18 concurrent users online at one point. So yeah, that's kind of like nice and an extra motivation for me to keep this going. Cool. But we have this minimal API. Yeah, nice and cool. But I want to get rid of everything here. Really everything. So we don't have this. We don't need this anymore. And I also don't want to have this type of things. These comments, they are not useful at all for me right now. But now, the first thing that we have to think about is, when the first challenge that I think we'll have, and I'm not sure how we can bypass it, is that my data context is Entity Framework Core 6. And I'm running on .NET 7. Theoretically, I would expect that .NET 7 will run with EF Core 6, but I'm not sure if it will run. So I guess we will have a way to actually look into this. But let's check first of all, how did we do in this API? Because in this API, I guess we want to do it for the service registration. I guess that actually we can do things very similar to what we have in this API. So what I like to do in my API is always I use this concept of registers. Now the idea is that in a regular API, your startup.cs or program.cs file will get cluttered with a lot of services add methods. And what I like to do is kind of like group this type of service registrations into, well, units that kind of like belong together. So for instance, I have here the application layer register that, well, registers application from, or services from the application layer. Right now in the application layer, we just have this identity service that we have looked into. It just creates JWT tokens and reads JWT tokens. EF Core 6 works fine with .NET 7. Yeah, the theory is like that. So backwards it should work. So, but well, practice sometimes, well, it's not really as it is with the theory, but we'll see together. We'll see together. Cool. Now, for instance, then we have this DB register, and in this DB register, what I'll do here I register everything for my DB context, like really everything for the DB context. Here is the data context. Does the data context inherit the identity DB context? Yes, it does. Cool. So that should be fine. Okay. Now, and the reason I have this interface iWeb application builder register is that all the registers actually, well, have this register services method. And what I do then is on extension methods, register extensions. So here's a very basic assembly scanning. So when the application starts up, I use reflection to actually look of all the classes that, well, belong to an IRegister. So I do a type constraint here. So I know already that T will be of type IRegister. So it will have that interface, and then I get just the types, and yeah, that can be assigned to that interface. So that implement that interface, and then I select them. That's a projection, and then I use the activator. That's also from reflection, and then I create an instance of that, and yeah, I cast it to the T itself. And then the idea is that what I do with these register services, like here is the registers. Here I get basically all the registers that I need. And then for all of them, I call the register services method. So what this does is actually then whenever I add a new register or whenever I add a new service to a certain register, I don't have to care about wiring it up anymore. Because every time that I will start this application, actually it will wire everything up from scratch, and I don't really have to care about that. So I guess this similar approach we can implement also in the Minimal API, and I can it be fairly similar to what we have here. However, in this CWK social API, I think, I think I still did the mistake because we had two different types of registers. We have a register for the services, but then I guess I also had a register for the middleware. And that's actually not okay, because for the services, it doesn't really matter in which order you add them. But for the middleware, it actually does matter in the order in which you add them. So this means, of course, that what it would happen is that if you have different files that contain this middleware, the problem is that you don't know exactly the order anymore. So that's why this approach is probably not good for middleware. So maybe we'll also remove it from the API here at a certain point. So in the Minimal API, I want to create a register only for the web application or the iService collection. So let me go here to builder register. So it will be this one. Now I will have this as, or I will take the web application builder as an instance here, because I don't just want to extend the service collection, because when I add services, I might need to also access the configuration or configurations. Like for instance, when I register the DB, here I need also from the builder on the configuration to get the section with the DB context. So that's why I need the entire builder and not only the service collection from that. So yeah, cool. That is kind of like how it goes here. Cool. So the exact same thing we want to replicate here. So let's add a new folder. Let's call this registers. Let's also add another folder here, and let's call this abstractions. And in this abstractions folder, let's add an interface, new class interface, IRegister. Okay, and in this interface, I'll put this one here. Okay, so the first thing that I want to register, I guess, is the database and things like that. So in the registers folder, let's add a new class, add new class. It will be, let's call it DB register, because here we'll add all the services or registrations that kind of like have anything to do with the database. So it will be an IRegister interface. Probably will need some using here. Reference to see. No, this one, not the one from the API. Of course, I want to keep those two totally decoupled. So the Minimal API should not reference at all the API project, and also vice versa not. So these are totally standalone applications. So none of those applications should know about the other. So that's for sure a no-go. And of course, what we'll need to do here is we'll have to implement the interface, and then If we go back to this one, it was the DB register. Okay, and yeah, I guess the registration itself, it's the same. So it doesn't really matter if you have a minimal API or a regular API. The service collection works exactly the same way, so no real problem with that. So let me just paste the code here. But here, of course, we do not have, we need to add entity framework. We need to add entity framework. To add reference to, okay, yes, this reference is needed. It's no problem with that, but let's add NuGet packages. So package manager, but no, not this one. Where am I? Manage NuGet packages. Guys, are you still there? Or is everybody asleep? Is the music still working? I guess it should. I'm awake. Okay, thanks. Cool. I'm just curious, is any one of the members here in the chat, or is any of the members watching right now? I would be curious to know that. Cool. So manage NuGet packages. So what we will need here is we will need. The good thing is that we don't need to add migrations because they're already there, so it's okay. So we'll need entity framework core, but we'll need version this one, so not 7. And yeah, let's see how things will work. I'm curious about that. Cool. Then we need entity framework core to where is it? SQL Server. And not the 7 version, but the 6. Okay. Install. And as far as I remember, I need also the design here. And also I'll make sure that I'll have here 6. Okay. And I guess there are some other packages that we need. Like we need mediator. But from the mediator, we actually only need in this case the one with dependency injection, because we just need to inject the mediator. Because in the application layer we have already the mediator package, like the main package for mediator, so we can use that, I guess. And probably we will also need automapper, because I guess we have used automapper already in the API. My god, 333 millions. Well, pretty good job by Jimmy Bogart, I guess. Very nice guy. Guys, do you have any questions for me? Just yeah, ask something, say something. Don't let me just talk alone here. Please don't do that. Okay, do we need anything else? But here, no, we actually added the wrong automapper. Uninstall. We need the dependency injection one. Always the dependency injection package. Have you written any packages? Kind of like a little bit, but none that are very, very popular. Like, yeah, maybe I can show you something. Just 1 second. So when we add packages in this for automapper and mediator, always when you want to add it in ASP.NET Core, like use it with the DI container. If you install the package that contains dependency injection at the end, it will also install the base package, so you don't have to install them both. But if you want to register it in the DI container, just installing the main package like I did earlier will not help, because that will not help you. So in this case, we just need to install this package and then we should be good to go. Cool. Have you written any packages? Yes, I have. But as said, nothing that they are very popular, but kind of like let me check. Probably the screen will get very bright now. So let me see. Can I sign in? What was my NuGet? Don't recall. Okay. Two-factor authentication. Sorry for that. So you can already tell that it's been a while since I logged into the NuGet website. So yeah, it's on the other screen, so you don't see it right now, but I will bring it over once I can actually log into this. So let me check. Okay, published packages. So basically I have two packages that I have published. One of the packages, which this one, that's a very old one from the times that actually Blazor was still in experimental phase, and I have actually written basically a Blazor wrapper over the chess.js library that allows you to actually render a chessboard with all the rules and everything. So I have basically ported that to Blazor. But yeah, that was during the time that Blazor was still experimental, so not a very big stuff there. And then this is the other one that's kind of like something like 1 year old. That's a package for the .NET 6 minimal API called Smart Modules. Now I have created this package to be able to actually modularize minimal APIs in .NET 6. It was quite interesting, but in the end, the approach that I have taken there is actually not something that that I think it's beneficial, because I have, well, my way of thinking was that I wanted to kind of like create controller-based classes or controller-like classes for the minimal API in which we could use dependency injection, but actually you can't really do this. Because you can do this only if you just put, for instance, this, let me go back to the program.cs. If you put this app.run actually inside a builder services get scope, so inside the using with the scope, but when you do this, virtually all your scoped services will de facto actually be singletons, because your application will always run in the same scope that you have created here. So that's a totally bad approach, so not a good idea. Yeah, so these are the only two packages that I have written that are kind of like a public. Now I have written another package for one of my customers, and that package was kind of like an API client. They had kind of like an organizational wide API for all the system, and all systems that needed to communicate or get some data, they needed to do it through that API. Now the problem was that each application itself, like they had 6 or 7 different applications, and the problem was that in each application, each team implemented a different way to actually working and calling that API. So what I have done, I have created basically a library that we have published to an internal NuGet feed, and then all projects started to use that unified way. It was like a real, or like a client or API SDK, like for instance the Microsoft Graph SDK. You can just download it and then you can just use it to call the API in a very easy way and a unified way. So that was, well, another library that I have created, and actually I was kind of like very proud of that one, and the way that I have architectured the entire library and all the requests, like everything was isolated for each endpoint, and the customer was very happy. So I had very good feedback from the customer. But yeah, that's really kind of like the packages that I have worked on so far. My problem is that I really lack ideas about packages that might be useful. So if you have ideas about packages that might be useful and that aren't already there, or that maybe are, but maybe, I don't know, they are not at their best, Just let me know, maybe in comments or in the chat. And yeah, maybe we can start a series with that. So, okay. So like wrappers for minimal APIs. No, that was not like a wrapper for a minimal. It was a wrapper for a real API. But it's a client SDK. That's the term, like the Microsoft Graph SDK. Like it was similar to that one, let's say. Well, maybe this could also be a video idea how to create a package. Okay. Why do you use .NET 6 NuGet package reference? Why not .NET 7? Sir Sahin. In which or where exactly did you see that I was using .NET 6? Like for the minimal API here that I have created right now, I'm definitely using .NET 7. I just installed EF Core 6 because I have already a data access layer project and, well, all the other libraries that kind of like target the .NET 6, and I didn't want to really start to upgrade all my packages right now. So that's why I installed EF Core 6, but the .NET is .NET 7. So yeah, it's just like that. Cool. Yeah. So we have installed all the needed packages, but we have an error here. Let me see. DB context use SQL Server. Okay, probably we just need to add using Microsoft Entity Framework Core. Actually, cool, that works. Okay. So, we have this one. Okay, then services, add identity core, identity user. So that's the same that I had previously. Identity user, that's in the Microsoft ASP.NET Core identity package. Is this package by default in .NET 7? Because I was thinking in .NET 6 I had to install it separately, but I'm not really sure about that anymore. But yeah, seems that we don't have any errors here anymore, so this type of registration would work here. Cool. Let me then check what other registrations did we have here. Now the Bogart register, I will call this different. That was actually kind of like a joke, because when I was on live stream with creating this type of registers, kind of like I have organized all those different types of services, like the application layer services, like the DB, like the database services, in their own register, and then I basically remained with AutoMapper and Mediator. So where to put them? And then I create I did create this class that I call the Bogart register, where I have added all Jimmy Bogart's services to the DI container. But yeah, let's just copy this because we can have this. And yeah, let's create a new register. What would be a good name? I don't want to use the same name again. So what would be a good name for this class containing this register? I'm very, very bad at naming. What would be a good name for this? What would be a good name for this? Any idea? Let's say utilities. Utilities register, okay. To inherit my register, okay, should be fine, I guess. So no, this one. But I have to be very, very careful not to add a dependency to the API project, because that would be bad. It would be totally bad. Implement interface, and here the implementation should be very easy. It would be this one. Okay, cool. Let's okay, here we need a dependency. We can add a dependency to the application layer, so that's regular. So that's what we also have in the API. So the cool thing is that if you have this kind of like clean architecture building, is that if you have your domain layer, if you have your data access layer, if you have your application layer, you can just build whatever application you want over that. So we had an API, now we're building a minimal API. We are using all the entire setup. The only thing that we're changing is actually the host and how we run the API itself. Cool. Let's say, are there any other questions here? I guess no. Okay, cool. Okay, what other registers do we have here? Bogart DB register, identity register. Yeah, that is something that we will surely need. That is something that we... but we also need the settings. So yeah, I guess let's go here to the settings, app settings.json file. So we'll need the connection string and this one. So these are the two objects that we need from this one. So let's go to the app settings.json, cloud hosts, and after that, let's just add them. Because of course we're using the same database. So, and these are kind of like information that we need for identity, for generating a token. So yeah, we have that. Now with that one, we should be good to go. So let's go back to the identity register. And here we have kind of like we need all of this here. Okay. Now adding identity to the minimal API, that will be fun because I'm not sure exactly how to do that. But I guess we'll find a way together. Let's add a new register and that. Where is it? New class. Register. Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, I need to register those because the application layer needs it. And kind of like this is our DI container. So yeah, we need to register that also. I registered. Okay. And by the way, guys, in the description of this video, you can find the link to the repository where all the code is already there. So you can check that out whenever you want. And also, if you want to support this channel and this live stream besides membership, you can also use the super thanks that's just below the chat box where you write your comments. So if you just want to send a super, that would be totally appreciated. So I register. Let's implement this interface, and the implementation would be this one. Okay, and let's see, how many errors do we have? We have a lot of errors because we are also missing another class for the options. Generate property Microsoft ASP.NET Core authentication JWT bearer. I have to check that because I'm not sure about that. So let's go back to the identity and the JWT bearer defaults Microsoft ASP.NET Core authentication JWT bearer. Yeah, it seems right. So let's go. No, not here, but here. And yeah, we can just add that package that was suggested. To install package, install use local version, find and install latest version. I guess latest version should work. Well, let's see. Okay, so that one gets installed. And I'm not sure if the errors just went away because right now yeah, at least this one, yeah. So those one were okay. Now we have these token validation parameters. Let's see, Microsoft Identity Model tokens. Once again, I have to double check there because there might be different NuGet packages and namespaces that kind of like contain this class, but I will have to make sure that it's exactly the same that kind of like we used for the API. So let's go to the identity register once again, and it was these token validation parameters, and this one is it doesn't really say. That's not nice. Microsoft Identity Model tokens. Yeah, it should be okay. It should be okay. So let's go back. Microsoft Identity Model tokens. Cool. Yeah. It was just using it. It was not a new package. So yeah, that was kind of like okay. Cool. We are good with that. Then what? We don't have any errors. Why don't we have any errors? Because these settings are in the application layer. That's nice and smart, and that's why you see placing classes in the right layer is actually good, because right now, yeah, we just have access to this class also. The reason why I have placed this in the application layer is that actually these JWT settings, these are actually settings that belong together with where are you with this service. So the settings, they belong to this service, so this is why we have placed here under options JWT settings. So when we want to simply reuse everything in our minimal API, we don't need to recreate this class, so we already have access to that. So that's kind of cool. Okay, that one I liked. Okay, so the next one, let's go to the next one. What do we have? I still have an error. The name encoding does not exist. I mean, Visual Studio is also pretty using system.txt. I guess that should be right. Okay, and now once again, all the errors are gone. Cool, so we were in the identity. Okay, iWeb application builder, iWeb application register, that doesn't interest us. MVC register. I guess from here I said, okay, we don't add controllers, we don't add filters because we don't add them like that. It will be different. And we don't want to add versioning with Open API right now. Main reason why is because that would be too complicated right now, and I want to concentrate maybe on the minimal API itself, not trying to configure Swagger for versioning right now. So builder services add version the API Explorer. Also, we'll skip this for now and add endpoints API Explorer. Once again, all of these are related to full MVC stuff. We will not use that. So MVC web app register, this contains the well, as I said, the middleware, which is not good once again that we have it here, because if you would have several classes that do this, you don't know exactly the order anymore. But one thing that we need, I guess, is from the middleware is user authentication and user authorization. I guess that should still be the same also here, because I would assume, so I'm not sure at all, but I would assume that authentication and authorization as an infrastructure, it should be exactly the same in the minimal API. So I'll just copy them over. So I think right now I don't have anything else. Maybe Swagger, that's registers Swagger services. So that I don't really care about that. Cool. And then we have this register services, which is these extensions. And here I have register pipeline components. I guess that's and it's the implementation. I guess that's the one that registers the middleware, so we don't need that. We just need this method and this other method. Okay, so let's add also in the minimal API. Once again, a new folder, and we'll call this folder extensions. Okay, and in the extensions folder, let's add a new class. And let's call it register extensions. Cool. And we'll just copy from there. See, copy pasting code. They say it's not good. And it probably isn't, but in this case, I think it's still better than rewriting it from scratch. So I will do that. Where do I have this here? And I guess I'll copy all the methods and then I'll just remove the one that we don't need. And probably we'll also have to adapt this a little bit because we changed the infrastructure a bit for this one. Am I thinking about this right? If you have something as validation parameter, it should be included in your claims. Depending what you think about validation parameter. Like you want to validate, for instance, when the endpoints contain a GUID or something, you maybe want to validate that is a really valid GUID, like we do in the API. So that would not be on the token. That's from the endpoint. You would like to also validate, for instance, bodies that come in. That's also not on the token. So I'm not sure exactly what are you referring to, but yeah, of course, a lot of things should be in the token. Yeah, that's for sure. In fact, we have also extension methods that kind of like extract information from the token. Guys, do you hear me well enough, or is it too loud? I mean, my voice, is it too loud or something like that? Okay, let me just check what's wrong with the music. But it should be okay, I guess. Cool. Okay, so let me go back here, register extensions. Okay, so from this one, we don't need this. Sounds fine here. Thank you very much, Rob, for confirming. So public, it should be static, of course, because it's a class that contains extension methods. Okay. Cool. So we have to change this a little bit. Okay, we have this static enumerable of t. Now get register. Now we had this generic because in the other project we were looking for two different types. We have made that generic, but in this case, don't think that we actually need this to be generic. We don't really need this to be generic because we are just looking for one certain type. And I don't want a scanning type either here. And also not here. And also not here. We can remove also the type constraint. We don't need the scanning type because we know for sure that the scanning type should be here in this program. So we can then scanning type, we can just have here var scanning type equals type of program. And yeah, the program is here. So let me check again. Public static enumerable. But here, yeah, here we need to return. We need to return something actually. How was it there? Extensions. So we were returning an enumerable of t. Okay. But in this case, I guess we can just return an enumerable of type. Here, enumerable of. I guess it should be an enumerable of type. Okay, because what we're doing here is we specify the scanning type, and from the scanning type we get the assembly, and we get all the types. Then we actually do a filter here, so that's basically an iQueryable, and we look for the type that it is assignable. Okay, that is, we don't need it anymore. So we look for a type where so t should not be abstract and t should not be interface. So we want to make sure here t is assignable to what was here previously. Okay, type of, okay, to the term. Here we don't need a type actually. It should be assignable to IRegister, or the type of IRegister. So type of something like this. Okay, probably we need a using here that's missing. Yep. Okay, so we are good with that. And t should not be abstract, and t should not be an interface. So we want to make sure that it's really really a concrete type. So music for my ears. What exactly was music for your ears, Victor? Okay, so and once we get actually this T, we just want to select, and we then use the activator to create an instance, and we create that instance to the type of T. And what we do is actually we return this as an IEnumerable, because this is in the end an IEnumerable. So here what we do is that we actually iterate through the IEnumerable, and for each one we just want to call the register services, which means that when we start up the application, what will happen is that it will scan basically all the registers that we have here, like the DB register, the identity register, and the utilities register. And for each one, it will call this method. That method kind of like adds the services. And then the only thing that we would need to do is this register services. Okay, still there's a problem. So Visual Studio is moving very, very, very slow. Like, what am I returning here? IEnumerable T cannot implicitly. So okay, this is not enumerable. Action generic IEnumerable of system type. An explicit conversion exists. Are you missing a pass? Ah, okay, we don't want to actually cast it. The other time we I don't think we need a cast here. I really don't. We don't need that, because in that case it could have been either. Well, there were actually two different possible interfaces, but here I guess it should be just like that. So yeah, select returns an IEnumerable, so that should be okay. Cool. So right now we don't have any errors. So when we call this register services, and we call this from here, so we'll call this before we build the app. So it's builder. And the extension method, as we've seen, is on the web application builder itself. So it should be something like this. Of course, we are missing some usings. Okay, minimal API extensions. Yep, that should do it. So right now we have registered all the services, theoretically at least, but we still have register services builder. Okay. Why is the problem here? No overload method. Okay. To the term register services, like probably in the register services on the, where is it? IRegister web application builder. Okay. So why is it not? Because we pass in the builder. So guys, if you notice what am I missing here, then just let me know, because this should be yes. Now I know we should say that var we should cast this. No, we need to cast that, but what we need to cast it to is we need to cast it directly to an but we'll cast it directly to a type of IRegister. Cool. So what's the problem now? Is it just not building again correctly? Let me on this one. Where do we have minimal API build? Because I'm not sure in this moment if the errors are for real there, or if it's Visual Studio just not being fast enough. But it seems that the errors are still there. Cool. So let's okay, so in this case get registers, and you see that it's an it's not of type, but it's of type IRegister. Now what happens here? Yep. Okay. So what's the problem right now? Maybe we don't need a cast in the end. So what's the problem? Contains methods to create types of objects. Method name expected. Okay, probably there's a typo somewhere. A point is missing. Where is missing a point? It was for the cast. I don't know. But no. There's a problem here. There's a problem here with the parentheses. Okay, so and the create instance should probably be here. Something like this, or a handle that must be okay. The type arguments method activator create instance of t cannot be inferred from the usage. Try specifying the type. Okay. But how can they not? Okay. Type of IRegister. Ah, is it okay now? Still not okay. I think it would be best to list the steps as high-level roadmap, then execute, so we know exactly we are in the process. So yeah, that's kind of like I think what we're trying to do here. The type arguments method enable t sequence to result. Okay, cannot be inferred from the usage. Try specifying the type arguments. Now this create instance, this should actually be a method. Am I wrong? Yeah, it should create instance and I have to specify a type. Now I see where is assignable to and select activator create instance. Okay, so they say that I need a type. Create instance of can I do it like this? No, I can't. Or yes, I can, but then the select still complains here and says specify the type arguments specifically. Okay, but what type arguments where? That's kind of like a little bit strange. Let me check again in the other one. So where was that? Cool. So what do we have here? Now activator create instance. Actually this was because we passed this as a delegate. And then yeah, let's try that. So we didn't use the method there. We just use it as a delegate. Select create instance. Okay. Yep. Now the only other thing that they were doing there was the cast. Cool. And here type of cast it to an IRegister. Okay, so now what's the problem with you? No overload methods. Cast takes one argument. Okay. How did we have it here? Maybe I'm too tired right now, so I'm not sure. It was a generic. It was generic. The cast is generic. We want to cast it to an IRegister. Cool. Yeah. Thanks God. Seems to be working right now. Okay, no error anymore. Register services, everything seems to be to go. Registers is an enumerable of IRegister. Cool, that's what we wanted. And yeah, so this means that right now when we go here with the program, I think that services should be registered. And one way that we can actually check that is let's create a route map get. Since we already have a weather forecasts, I guess, and in this method I just want to be honest, I don't want to actually return everything or anything. Return I would just say results.ok. Results in the minimal API is like the iAction result actually in the regular controller. So that's the results. However, in .NET 7 we have two different type of things. We have results and we have typed results. And type results are actually better to use because they are easily, or they could be used easily for testing. The results, the regular results, they had a problem. That was another thing why minimal APIs in .NET 6 were, from my point of view, not really ready. Now, the only thing that we want to do, I still want to have here an expression body. I still want here an expression body because I want to put a breakpoint here. So return typed results dot. Okay, yeah, let's return okay. That should be okay, and no error. And what we can do actually here when we, so how dependency injection works in minimal API is that you will not dependency inject in the constructor, but we have method injection. So we can automatically resolve services from the dependency injection container in the method itself, so in the route handler. So this is why we can come here and say that I would like to have an mapper. And probably using automapper. I'm cool with that. Now the thing is that if I put a breakpoint here, when I make a request, if this can't be resolved because the services were not added correctly, that would throw me an exception. If we had problems during service registration, we would also have an exception. So if we arrive here at this point, it means that this service was resolved correctly from the DI container, which logically means that it was added correctly to the DI container. So yeah, just let's run the API, and kind of like that should be a proof for us that our dependency injection setup actually works. So let me check. By the way, guys, if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, then please subscribe. Okay, so we just have a type load exception, could not load type mediator. I request from assembly mediator. Okay. Why is actually that? Could not load type mediator. I request from assembly mediator. That happens actually when we want, or when we try to register probably the mediator. It means that this exception happens when, and right now I'm not sure if this is a problem with the minimal API, but it's happens here. So mediator get all user profiles. So this is when it tries to actually add this service. Let me put a breakpoint here. Okay, so mediator it still got the error because it was on the other one. So let me go back to the utilities here. Let me put a breakpoint here. Let me also put breakpoints in each of them because I want to actually see exactly also the order in which they are called, because I want to make sure if any of those are resolved correctly. So let me just run it. So okay, so first of all, we are in the DB register. So it means that database was registered correctly. It means that identity was registered correctly. Mediator, I request. Why is this? Show call stack. Doesn't really help. Exception settings. Handle could not load type mediator. I request. Why do they tell me this? Mediator, I request. We have added mediator to our application, haven't we? I guess yes. Packages. Microsoft. We have automapper. And we have mediator extensions. Yeah, we have that package. Microsoft SP.NET Core, Entity Framework Core. To be honest, I really don't have this idea. Let me go to this register again. So when we try to add mediator, type handle, are there not able to? So automapper we have in type of program and type of get all user profiles, and here get all user profiles also. This is in the application layer, so I would expect an assembly scanning to happen in the application layer for all the stuff that we have there. So let me check once again the libraries that we have in the API. Dependencies. I guess we should have the exact same things here. Like, yes, mediator extensions dependency injection. Like we have here the version 9.0 and what was the exception? Type loader minimal API IRequest. Minimal API DLL. So they could not add the type. But why is that? Let me check the dependencies again. Because packages. Now we should have here also transient. You see that this one actually has this one, and it also has this one. So theoretically the package is already there and in the contracts, and yeah, that's a compile time thingy we don't have access to. That's the DLL itself. So yeah, theoretically we have mediator, we have these extensions, and we have also automapper, and it's actually the same. I don't know, let me maybe change the version of this package. I'm really not sure why this error comes. So installed automapper. I think it would be best to just okay, that it was from yes, it was a comment from previously from Victor. Also, let me just have this not automapper but mediator. Let's I guess it was version 9 that we had, what we had previously. Let me first uninstall this, and then dependency injection. Yeah, let's. We do know that it worked actually with version 9, so let's just install this version 9 and just try again. Okay, now I guess we have another problem. No, we don't have any other problem. So let's try to run that again. Let's try to run that again and let's see. So we are in the DB register. Cool. We are in the identity register, and then we still have here the same problem. Some services are not able to be constructed. Error by validating the service script. It's still the same. Mediator, IRequest handler, CVK social application identity commons login commons CWK social. Okay, now I understand, I guess. Now I understand what was the problem, maybe. Or didn't I? I think I forgot to register some things here. So builder register services, this register services does all the scanning stuff, and this kind of like registers. I guess I have actually forgot about a certain service, maybe. That would be a good explanation. And here, where do I have? So let me application layer register, add scoped identity service. Did I add this? Not that it should make any difference, because that's the totally unrelated stuff. But we don't have that. So add new class. And the cool thing about the whole reflection stuff that we have been doing is that right now you see I will add another IRegister. I don't have to do anything anymore, so everything will be wired up. So application, and I don't really want to simply skip the mediator because we'll need that. So we need to kind of like troubleshoot the problem until we find a solution to that. But I'm not sure really why we have this error right now. Minimal API abstractions. Yep, that's what we want to use. And then we want to implement the interface. And in the implementation, we will need the identity service. Okay, so we have added this one. And let's see, did we miss anything else? Did we miss anything else? So we have this Bogart register that we have ported over. DB register we have also ported over. The identity register, let's see. But this one we imported like it was also before, so with no changes. A register, that's a marker interface. Then MVC register. Do we miss something from here? Add controllers. No, we don't need that. API versioning, we don't need that, and it doesn't have anything to do with mediator. And endpoints API explorer also, it doesn't really have to do anything with mediator, so that shouldn't be a problem. MVC web app register, there's just a Swagger UI, we don't want that. Yeah, we don't have controllers and thingies. So in the Swagger here, once again Swagger gen, and yeah, Swagger configurations. So yeah, I guess, I don't know, we added everything, so I guess that nothing's really missing here. I'm not sure what it actually happens here. Let me just run again. Maybe I'm just missing something very, very straightforward and easy. That's usually how it happens. Add authorization in the application startup code. Okay, now the why were you not able to have services add authorization? Because we have it. Let me check. Identity register, configuration, services, add authentication, add jot bearer. No, it seems that we really don't have it. But where do we have it here in this other part? In the API. That's strange. Because in the program.cs we don't have it. And in the identity register, we have add authentication and add JWT bearer and get section configure. So yeah, practically it's kind of like the same. Okay, let's I don't know, try it out. Where is it? Identity register. But it's, why isn't it working properly? Builder.services.add and authorization. For now, just let's add it like this and see if now anything changes. So I am not sure, but it's very, very slow, I guess. Visual Studio, it's very, very slow right now. So I don't know, it seems like it's working right now. Let's go over to Postman. Okay, 404 not found. So probably there's a typo here somewhere. Let me just check again. What was the endpoint? Yeah, it was pluralized. So it was pluralized. Okay, so now we have an error. Here we have a problem with the automapper. Method not found, void automapper, IMember configuration expression map from. So now we have a problem with automapper. I guess now I think it's maybe important thing, because I guess that the versions of automapper and mediator should be consistent within those projects. So in the application layer, I guess that's a problem. So in the application layer for here, let's have packages, and as we know that it actually worked before. So automapper is 10.1.1, mediator is version 9. So that's in the application layer. Okay, so let me just go back once again to this one, and dependencies, manage NuGet packages, and here installed. So installed automapper. Okay, what version was this? Please remind me. I guess it was version 10. There's no version 10. That's strange, at least strange. Earth VS 2012-17 works. Yeah, and indeed it's exactly that version. So yeah. So guys, I think that's a little bit strange. Because this is only version 12.8, but the other one, that should be kind of like, it's 10 here, this automapper. Yeah, okay, but then the version could be different of the automapper library itself. So let me just check here. So in automapper, so the version of this dependency injection stuff is in that, but it's still also automapper is version 12, but we don't have actually version 10. That's weird. Okay, so in that case, what we'll do here is, okay, let's go with everything up to date. See, challenges. These type of things always happen when you have to kind of like upgrade, have new projects, make them work with new libraries and new versions. So it's kind of like every time like that. So in the end, let's do for the other approach. Let's do here an update to the latest stable version. Let's see, update here. Okay, but let's also go there. So we have 12 in automapper and 11 in mediator. So that's what we have here. So let's then go to the application layer, and here let's go on manage NuGet packages. But yeah, that's a problem that probably I will have to investigate. I was not aware of any problems with the mediator versions. So here we have this mediator extensions dependent, but yeah, it's the API layer, CVK social application layer. So that's the correct one. But why didn't I install here this one? I don't know. I really don't know. So here, but the latest version is 11. So here we already have this for mediator, but then for automapper, latest stable version. Let's also move this to 12. Let's install. But now I don't remember exactly. Problem. Okay, I guess I'm too tired probably. Now we have this type of errors that they detected downgrades. Okay, package restored failoring, back package changes, application package downgrade automapper from version 12 to version 10.1.1. Yeah, but let's go on installed automapper. Okay, so let's have mediator version. Let's take the latest update. I really hate to always do updates and packages versions. That's a nightmare anytime we do it. Here the latest. Let's also update this one. Cool. So right now we have this one that's here and this one that's here. Version conflict detect automapper install reference went directly to project to resolve issues. Okay, so we need to also go to the API project to resolve this problem. So let's go to the API project. Where is it? I guess it's up one level. API dependencies, manage NuGet packages. Yeah, manage NuGet packages. Let's see. It's installed packages, automapper. This version is even older. Let's go to the latest one. And mediator. Also go to the latest one. Okay. Cool. And now we don't have any console problems anymore, at least. And yeah, so right now I guess we should be on similar version on all projects with automapper and mediator. So yeah, let's run again, hope for the best. You see, these type of things happen always when